Thank you very much, Mr. Rao. It has been quite a bit. Thank you very much. You took time to talk about most of the points connected with the career. Thank you really very much for that. Good afternoon to all of you once again. Let me go through the session here. The idea of this session is to give an overview of what we are going to cover during this 13 or 14 sessions which we have lined up. I think Mr. Rao will talk about that later, about the scheduling part of it. But the purpose of this call is basically to tell you what went into designing this program and how we are going to go through it. So the way I've structured it is to talk about the objectives. On the slide you have, you are able to see the slide as objectives and outcomes, I suppose, Mr. Rao. Okay. The slide what you see on the screen is objectives and outcomes. The idea of this program is to expose and reinforce the concepts of leadership competencies. Basically, they deal with managing a team, planning and developing the business as such, and then tips and techniques for ease of application at work. The idea is basically to reinforce some of them if you are already familiar with it. And in case you are a new manager or you are actually getting into a new role, these things will help you to sharpen the saw, if I put it that way. The expected outcome is on understanding the competencies much better and being able to apply them. So the idea is also to share some of my personal experiences where it worked and where it didn't, and also to bring about some of the recent developments globally in areas connected with these competencies. So the topics we are planning to cover, there are 15 of them. I'll just quickly go through them. The sequencing has been done in such a way that it would flow like a natural chain. The idea is to start with the strategy, then get on to aligning with the performance, then communicating with the stakeholders, setting the goals, then coaching for superior performance, then conflict resolution, and it goes in the very sequential manner. What you will see at the end, which is actually number 15, is making life easy with Digital India. This is actually an odd man out from these topics, what we have planned. The idea of including this cannot be overemphasized in the current scenario, because we have gone through this demonetization and then becoming more adept at using the digital money. India is actually on the verge of becoming a digital economy very soon. So there are aspects connected with that. Because I have been associated with the government and Department of IT on designing content and delivering programs for senior IAS officers, I have a lot of information, as well as I have been also developing material for that. So I thought it would be a good idea to share them with the rest of the people, so that their ability to use them and exploit those techniques and technologies which are available for better outcome. So that one topic, the number 15, is out of the ordinary, but the rest of the 14 are connected with our professional life. So 15 is personal life, making it easier, and up till 14 is more of professionalism. Then let me get on to talk about each one of these topics very briefly. I'm not giving the complete coverage, but we have put together something like 3 or 4 bullets for each topic. Applying blue ocean strategy. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about this blue ocean strategy. This is almost about 8-9 years old. When we talk about strategy, generally people talk about SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, and then Porter's 5 forces. And then we also talk about C.K. Praghalad's core competency. They are all traditional proven techniques which have been there for planning strategy. But of late, blue ocean strategy has picked up, and this is basically understanding the marketplace and competition from a totally different perspective. And then here he talks about creating a value curve and a strategy canvas. It's based on a particular book called Blue Ocean Strategy. So we will be covering the techniques of creating a blue ocean strategy, and then how the execution of blue ocean strategy should happen, how to plan for that. So that will be covered in that session dedicated to that topic. Then coming next would be aligning with the vision for performance. Basically, many a times when I deal with middle managers or even slightly above middle managers, they say, yeah, I'm doing this because I've been asked to do this. The connecting with the vision and the larger, bigger picture of the organization is slightly missing, and they do it more on a weekly basis or sometimes even on a daily basis. But in case we are able to connect with the vision and broad strategy of the organization, the performance would become much better, and it will be easier to form the SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound goals, and then make them work for us. So this is basically to align the vision and create a goal, followed by defining the performance metrics. I find the complete chain, there are some variations, miss outs, because of which a lot of issues. So we thought we will fill all the gaps and connect the dots here. The next topic is managing the stakeholders and communicating effectively. When it comes to stakeholders, many a times in many projects, people list about half a dozen stakeholders. If you really get on to listing them and start planning for communication with them, it's a big exercise. So I thought of talking about 2 or 3 models of identifying the stakeholders and segregating them into different buckets, and then developing a specific communication strategy aimed at managing the stakeholders. I am careful in using the word not satisfying the stakeholders, managing the stakeholders, because it is not always possible and feasible to satisfy the stakeholder. We may have to manage them. So we will talk about some of those techniques and then monitor the engagement with the stakeholders. And ultimately, you will know, unless or otherwise the stakeholders are managed and their perceptions are created, it is not going to be beneficial for the program outcome. So this plays a vital role in dealing with either internal stakeholders within the organization or external stakeholders who can influence or get influenced by the outcome. Getting on to the next part is again setting the goals and building effective teams. The difference between the previous topic where we talked about the understanding the vision and aligning the performance, this is at an organizational level, and when you come here, it is very specific to the teams. Here it is more of splitting the broad goals into individuals and then assigning them the roles and responsibilities and making sure that their performance metrics are defined and they are given enough feedback for performance, and then as a part of that they are also given recognition or otherwise inputs for them to improve. So this is very specifically aimed at managing the team and getting them to perform at their optimum level. Then let me move on. So as a continuation of team development, the topic we have put together is coaching for superior performance. Here, coaching is defined here in the context of performance coaching. There are, based on my own experience, there are people who perform suboptimally either because of their capability or because of their attitude. If they perform suboptimally because of their capability, that could be supported by either training or on-the-job mentoring or some other means. But if it is due to attitude, then it requires a different treatment. So here we talk about identifying such gaps which are there in the team's performance and then dealing with them. When it comes to being a leader of a team, this is one of the very, very important qualities which I have seen myself apply it, and I have learned it from some of my seniors. I have seen it being applied, and I have also applied it, and we have seen the benefit of it. But of late, it is coming down, either because there is no time or there is no patience in the leaders. But this is a very important competency. We thought we should give them the input. So based on the need, people can make use of it. So coaching for superior performance is actually arriving at or guiding the members of the team to perform at their peak level. And all of us know, whenever there are teams, whenever there are more than two people, there are a possibility of multiple opinions. When different opinions crop up and then when they become stronger, then there would be a possibility of a conflict. So the next topic is basically resolving conflicts and negotiating effectively. The first one, resolving conflicts, is part of managing the team, where we will talk about the models. There are 5 different strategies for dealing with conflicts. So we will talk about that, and also talk about how to negotiate effectively. And conflict management and negotiating are kind of tightly connected with each other. So we will spend, and both of them can become a one-day workshop by itself, each one of them. But here we will give the highlights of, let's say, how to deal with conflicts and what are all the strategies to deal with conflicts, and then how to negotiate and what are all the options for negotiating, and then how to deal with negotiation in live situations. Here we will talk about negotiating with the client, negotiating with the team, or negotiating for anything from that matter. Then moving on to the next topic, it is cross-cultural and virtual teams. Current scenario, irrespective of the industry we work in, it has become like a global team in most of the scenarios. Other than even brick and mortar industry, there are multiple locations where people work. And then it becomes a global village, as we call it. So getting across different cultures and working with them is an art. It is also a science, and it also is a craft. So we will talk about some of the nuances connected with dealing with cross-cultural teams. And the other thing is virtual teams. Though many people work across the globe, across the boundaries of a nation, they just do it because they have been asked to do it. They probably may not have gone through formal training on them. So they keep learning the process over a period of time. Instead, we thought we will give some of the best practices and some pitfalls to avoid in dealing with both cross-cultural and virtual teams. And the important aspect we cover here is on managing the communication for effectiveness between these teams. Then comes naturally the risk management and the response strategies. Every project, every activity has a risk associated with it. So here we look up to identifying the risks, making a list of them, analyzing them based on qualitative methods or quantitative methods, then arriving at possible strategies for dealing with them. The risk response strategies, once worked out, need to be actually assigned to a set of people, and then they have to be monitored on a continuous basis. So this managing risk and planning the response strategies would cover the entire length and breadth of that, but it would give actually a broad highlight of what would be the actions to take care of that. Then comes managing change. This by itself could be a couple of days of workshop. Here again, we are going to highlight activities connected with making a personal change and making an organizational change. You may wonder, why are we talking about these two? There are reasons for it. One is, if I am an individual working in an organization and the organization is going through some changes, I should know how to adapt to the change. So we need to understand why the change is happening, how do I align myself with respect to the change, and I'm able to deliver the value for the company. If I'm a leader working in that organization, we should be able to communicate that to the rest of the team, understand their problems, address them, and then bring them around to embrace the change and then take them along towards the newer journey. So from both sides, first one is adapting to change, second one is leading change. So both angles would be covered. Again, we would give the highlights, and some tools and techniques of doing it would be covered as part of this topic. Then comes innovation. Almost every organization where you work, They say lack of creativity or lack of innovation, or it is run-of-the-mill type. These are all some standard statements which we hear from various places. When you talk about innovation, people often confuse that with invention. So this particular topic, we are looking at what kind of innovations are there, how to create an innovation, can there be a plan for this, and some tools like 6 thinking hats, brainstorming, some of them will be discussed, and then how we enable the innovation in an organizational setup. It can be done within the team, it can be done within the organization, but we can't say 3 innovations per week. We can't put a deadline like this, but we create a situation and an ecosystem around which innovations blossom automatically. So how do we do that is what we will be covering in this session on innovation for survival and growth. Then problem solving and making decisions. This is again another competency which is required for a leader, very essential for a leader. Solving problems, a lot of people do, but again, making decisions, is it scientific? What are all the techniques available for that? How do we make sure that the decision made is well informed and a considered opinion is taken into account? So we will look at some optional, options for both of them, and then do that. So this is again flowing from the innovation part. So that is the reason we have kept this here as part of the overall competencies. Then applying mindfulness for workplace harmony. This mindfulness as a concept has been in India from the time immemorial. I would say we are masters of that as an Indian, as a culture. But this mindfulness word has come in again from the West. It talks about showing the emotional intelligence at workplace apart from the intelligence quotient. It also talks about applying other competencies. So I've developed a model called the 5Q model for holistic life. This basically looks at the leader as an individual who is actually performing the role of a leader, where he is taking care of the team, the person is able to take care of himself or herself, and also the relationship around that person. So it is actually like a 360-degree workaround for that person to keep him or her agile and able to deliver with peace of mind, with much less of stress. So this is what we call it as applying mindfulness at workplace. Then comes personal productivity. It looks very primitive, or probably even like textbookish, but I can tell you this: managing time has been one of the major challenges even at the CEO level. A couple of coachings where I have done this. So it becomes an essential component for everybody to manage time. Also communication, and then things like conducting meetings, building trust. These are all things which appear very common and normal. And when you talk about people that we have to talk about communication and improve communication, they say, what communication? I know English and I can talk about it. They say many a times. But when it comes to effective communication, how people are able to, some of them are able to make a big difference while others are not able to. Then we will see those differences and then find out how it can be done. So we will talk about some factors around all these 4 aspects: managing time, communication, and then the other building trust, etc. Then communicating effectively, a specific session on communication. Here the focus is more on listening and body language along with questioning techniques. Many a times when we deal with stakeholders, people don't listen. When I say listen, listen attentively, and listening for the message rather than having our own perception about various things. So this is one area where I found a lot of people need a lot of exercise and then practice. So that is the reason we thought we'll put it here. And the second one is questioning techniques. This questioning is not interrogation. It should not be misunderstood as interrogation. There are various ways of asking simple but very effective questions which will elicit a lot of information which will be useful for doing the work what we want to do, whether it is managing projects or collecting requirements, or even if a crisis has been reported, how we collect the information about the crisis makes a lot of difference in the way we handle the situation subsequently. Then we will also touch upon little bit on email etiquette, little bit on written communication, little bit on report writing and proposal. All of that we'll just touch upon them, but they are not going to be covered in detail, but mostly we will cover on listening and then questioning techniques. And then comes Digital India, the odd man out of these topics. Here we talk about what is Digital India, how it is going to be useful for us in terms of our daily life as a person. How can I make use of the resources available which are provided by the Government of India for our own betterment in terms of our daily life. The reason for us to know this is twofold. One is for us to know ourselves. Number two, fortunately, we are equipped with our abilities to communicate this to the less equipped ones. Maybe it could be our maid servant, or it could be a person who is driving our car. It could be anybody around us who are not as well equipped as we are. So we can educate them as part of this. That could be a part of our social responsibility towards making our surrounding a better place to live. So the idea here is to give you an overview of all of them and some couple of examples around how it can be done on our day-to-day basis. Some of you may be aware of it, some of you may be using it, but there are a lot of them who don't know this. That is the reason we put this point here together. So with that, I think I have kind of given a quick summary of all the topics which we wanted to cover as part of this. So the forum is open for question and answer, and any specific inputs you want to give on the coverage or any specific questions on the topics covered so far, please feel free to do that. And it is over to Mr. Rao for taking the question answer sessions further and then take it forward.